All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I picked up Xanathar's Guide to Everything just a few days ago. Been looking through it and reading as much as I can. And I must say that it so far has exceeded all expectations. This book, first of all, my initial thoughts when I saw this was going to be the cover online weren't very good. Um, Welcome, Forge. Glad you could join us. This just was not a book that I was real excited about artistically from the cover that I saw online. When I saw this in person, my opinion completely changed. I mean, this book is beautiful. I don't know what the difference was for me, but in person, this book is just amazing. The back looks really sweet. The front is amazing. And when I went to the store, they actually had what I saw only two. Now, I posted it on my Facebook and tagged the gaming store. They said they had a whole shelf of them. I didn't see that, but they said they had a whole shelf. So they obviously had a lot more. But there was a guy who went in right after me, bought the exact same book. So I thought I got the last one when I first left as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous cover. Obviously, I have Volo's Guide as well. So again, it's the same style, feel is very similar. However, you look at the back, I actually prefer this. The covers, I think I probably prefer this as well, but I do like Volo's also. So anyways, now with that, let's get into some of the stuff inside of it. This book had a lot of things I'd been watching on D&D Beyond when they interviewed Mike Mearls, and Crawford, like just a lot of good stuff. They even interviewed Chris Perkins. And when they were doing these videos, they were short, like up to 6-minute videos about the different classes that were in here and things like that. They didn't give away very much. However, they gave away just enough to get me extremely excited. So obviously you guys have probably seen flip throughs. Other people have done them. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing everything, but obviously the goldfish is kind of nice. I'm not going to show everything. Probably not going to show very much, but I'm here to discuss. I'm here to field questions and get your thoughts as well. I have the chat open from the YouTube page. So, if you want to post something there, obviously I saw the Forge is watching. So feel free to jump into the chat and we can have a discussion. Again, I'll answer questions and we can just talk about it. I plan on being on here for up to an hour. I'm not going to stay on here after 11. But yeah, so anyways, the book was $50. I bought it obviously from my local gaming store. I bought it from Fun for All Comics in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And again, if you live in the area, you got to go there. They're fantastic. There's 2 local stores that are great. One is Vault of Midnight, one is Fun for All. So that's my quick little shout out there. If you're anything like me, you probably saw that the table of contents leaked online a couple weeks ago. Looking at that, you would think you get a good feel for it. Some stuff you're like, oh, it's only a page or it's only a page and a half. However, they did a good job. They really did a good job with those. The start of the book, they have 10 rules to remember. And it goes over some things that are, some of it's already covered. For instance, bonus action spells. It basically states if you cast a bonus action spell, that basically you can only cast a single spell that is a level spell in a turn. So then the rest have to be cantrips, basically. So they talk about stuff like that: advantage, disadvantage, exceptions, supersede general rules, resistance and vulnerability, reaction timing, combining different effects, concentration, which again, this stuff, a lot of it's already covered. Something that I thought was kind of good that they mentioned was temporary hit points. I've played with players who have tried to do cumulative temporary hit points, both from a bard and from a spell that they had, things like that. However, this says that they don't stack. Now, I don't know if that is in another book or if it is in errata from Sage Advice, but that one I thought was kind of interesting because I've heard of people saying of trying to stack things. They have this really nice table of the different subclasses, kind of like a description of what it is, and then the level available. Those are pretty good. just to give you an idea. So if you have new players at your table that are interested in possibly dabbling in this and you're okay with them dabbling in some of these subclasses, just, this gives you enough information to kind of give them an idea, or at least to help with their concept. I was just talking to Nick Hartunian the other night. Hopefully I said your name the correct way. And some of my favorite stuff is that they added more flavor. So not only do you have your background information that you can roll up or whatever after picking like your background, now you have class things to add to it. For example, barbarians get personal totems. So you can roll a d6, and it basically talks about things that you have in your possession. The tattoos, again, you can have 1 of 6 tattoos. Superstitions. Superstitions is really cool. So one of my favorites right here was, and this would be terrible if you forced your players to roll for it and they had to go with it. But magical things bring trouble. Never sleep with a magic object within 10 feet of you. And then if you give them magic weapons, and then they get like rushed at night and something in between them and their weapons, that would be kind of fun to play out. Another one is never trust a wizard. They're all devils in disguise, especially the friendly ones. So if you have a wizard in the party, that could cause some fun role playing. Here's another one. Dwarves have lost their spirits and are almost like the undead. That's why they live underground. If you disturb the bones of the dead, you inherit all the troubles that plague them in life. If you have a party that likes, going through tombs and taking magic items or whatever, trying to get gold, there's a good way to cause some issues as long as you have a barbarian who's role-playing this up. If an elf looks you in the eyes, she's trying to read your thoughts. And when you walk through a graveyard, be sure to wear silver, or a ghost might jump into your body. So that's just some of the cool stuff. And each class has some flavor like this, so I really, really like that. A lot of this, and I don't know what's different from Unearthed Arcana. I have printed every probably Unearthed Arcana that came out. I have not done a side-by-side comparison. So I can't answer what all has changed there. Probably can't even find the things that changed, to be honest. I do know they talked about that a little bit on D&D Beyond on YouTube, but they didn't go into too much detail there either. So yeah, the Barbarian gets their new subclasses. Bard. So some of the things with the Bard, you get defining works, which is another thing I thought was kind of cool when I was telling him. Now, I didn't read a whole bunch about this. I kind of skimmed this, but it sounds like, yeah, you're renowned for at least one piece of performance art, typically a song or a poem that is popular with everyone who hears it. So it's not that you wrote the song, but you perform it at a very high level. And it gives you 6 songs. And so, again, I was talking about this with Nick, and like the 3 Flambinis, a ribald song concerning mistaken identities and unfettered desire. So these it tells you the song or poem, and then it tells you what it's about. And so you could tell your players to sing this song or to recite this poem just on the spot, improv, and that could be pretty funny, especially if that's what their character's known for. Now, they could bomb it and then, leave like a whole tavern like, wait, I thought this was supposed to be your defining work, like that could be awesome. Like, so maybe it started as a joke and it just caught on, across the world, and they really suck at performing it. I think that could be fun. But you get some instruments like an orcish drum. So you roll for your instrument. So I like that. There's embarrassments. So that's cool. It's got like a 6-chart embarrassment thing. So again, that's all cool for bards. I've never played a bard. I joke, with people when they're about to play a bard that, oh, you're going to play that. But College of Glamour, College of Swords, and again, I'm not going to go into all the specifics. College of Whispers, all really cool stuff that I've glanced over. The Cleric, so you get to roll for a temple, your keepsake, and then secrets. All of these things, again, add a lot of good role play opportunity. I'm actually really excited to get my new group to try whatever their class is to roll on these tables or pick something. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's my all Elven party. So new domains like the Forge domain, the Grave domain, Druids. Treasure. So their flavor things are their treasured items, their guiding aspect, and their mentor. So those are cool. And again, the reason I'm touching on those is that's my favorite part about the subclasses is the flavor. The Druid circles. So you get Circle of Dreams, Circle of the Shepherd. It goes over learning beast shapes, and I like that they give you charts based on the type of terrain. So, for example, in my all Elven campaign, we're going to be in the forest. So if they try to change into a monster that's not from the forest, they better have a good explanation of why they can. Otherwise, I would expect them to stick to this forest chart. It's something I'll probably make them, or I'll probably print off if I ever have a druid in the party. Right now I don't, but it's something I would print off and say, here you go, or tell them to write down the ones they would change into. I wouldn't expect them to be able to change into everything, but if they want to write it all down, they can, and then I'll let them. Fighter. So some of the things for the fighters, you get a heraldic sign. For example, a rampant golden dragon on a green field representing valor and a quest for wealth. Instructor. And this is cool too. Like one of them is a gladiator, one of them is a city watch, tribal warrior. So you can go for some different flavor there. And then it has signature styles. So if you've followed my channel for any amount of time, you would know that something I've always been a proponent of is role-playing combat. A lot of people, when they say, oh, you got to RP a lot, they're thinking social. Well, just like social interactions. Well, I don't think that social is the only way you can RP. You can RP in combat too. And that's not necessarily just what you say, it's what you do. So, for example, one of them is elegant. You move with precise grace and total control, never using more energy than you need. So you could RP something like that, how you barely sidestep, the orcs blow with their hammer and just subtly jab up, under their arm with your dagger, or something like that. That would be more of the elegant, not wasting a lot of time, kind of showy style. There's brutal. Your attacks rain down like hammer blows, meant to splinter bone or send blood flying. You wind back with your great axe, putting all your force and energy in a downward thrust, towards the orc. Cunning. You dart in to attack at just the right moment and use small scale tactics to tilt the odds in your favor. So that could be like little things here and there. Dirt in their eyes, positioning yourself so the sun is to your back, things like that. Let's see, effortless. You rarely perspire or display anything other than a stoic expression in battle. Energetic. You sing and laugh during combat as your spirit soars. You are happiest when you have a foe in front of you and a weapon in hand. That, I think, could be really fun for a group that has a fighter that in real life is a charismatic, fast-talking person. So the little quips that you could make here and there and, things like that. That could be a lot of fun. Sinister. You scowl and sneer while fighting, and you enjoy mocking your foes as you defeat them. Same thing there. If you had someone who's good at, like, one-liners, Sinister would work well. But for the most part, it's more of like an anger, fierceness. So... Martial archetypes. The Arcane Archer. This one looks like a lot of fun. You get a magic arrow, curving shot. You get different trick shots, basically. I imagine it somewhat like Hawkeye from the Avengers. So I think that'll be cool. You obviously get a Cavalier. Now that I heard changed quite a bit. In fact, I heard they mixed a couple things from the playtest to make it. And I think they got rid of some of the stuff that had to do with riding horseback because people were, you still get some of that stuff, but people were expressing that it's very rare that this character will be useful because you can't take horseback in anything. So there's that. Then there's the Samurai. The Samurai is cool. It's kind of like a little mini barbarian. You can buff yourself quickly for a turn, things like that. You know, so it's not quite a barbarian, it's a fighter, but you get little things here and there that allow you to buff up real quick. So I thought that was cool. Monks. The things I like about this, so you get to choose your monastery or role, monastic icons, and then your master. Your master was a tyrant whom you had to defeat in single combat to complete your instruction. That's kind of cool. I think it'd be cool to roleplay having to beat him before you actually do it. I think that'd be really cool. Then it goes into the monastic traditions, Way of the Drunken Master, which is cool because it has a tiefling right here, a drunken tiefling. The Kensai is a little halfling, it looks like, and then the Sun Soul. The Sun Soul doesn't really look like a monk to me. It looks just like a wanderer to me. But either way, good stuff there. So then it goes through those. The Paladin. So for the Paladin, you're going to have a personal goal, symbols, and a nemesis. So that's, and a temptation. So you get 4 things for a Paladin that add to the flavor. Then it goes into Sacred Oaths. Then you get Oath of Conquest, Oath of Redemption. So those are good. Then it goes into Ranger. Now, Ranger is the thing that, from the Player's Handbook, me and a lot of other people I knew actually didn't like it as much as in previous editions. In fact, a lot of people I know who loved Rangers before really looked down on them. Well, I think there's some good stuff in here. First of all, the RP stuff in the beginning, you got Views of the World, Homeland, and Sworn Enemy. The archetypes, Gloomstalker, Horizon Walker, and Monster Slayer. Personally, I like the Monster Slayer. Okay, I think that's cool. For example, Slayer's Prey is cool. You can focus your ire on one foe, increasing the harm you inflict on it. As a bonus action, you designate one creature you can see within 60 feet of you as the target of this feature. First time each turn that you hit the target, it takes an extra 1d6 damage from the weapon. This benefit lasts until you finish a short or long rest. Basically, it's kind of like the Rogue's Sneak Attack, except you don't need other things in favor of it. Now, it only lasts once. At least, well, yeah. It says this benefit lasts until you finish a short or long rest. It ends early if you designate a different creature. So it actually doesn't say how many times you get it, right? As a bonus action. Yeah, that's it. So I think you only can do it once. Yeah, on one foe, increasing the harm, blah, 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 blah. See, 60 feet. First time each turn that you hit that target with the weapon attack. So it only works once. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's only once. I don't think you ever get to do it more than once unless there's something later. Slayer's Counter. Yeah, no, that's it. You get to do it once. And it's only one creature, and it's the first hit on every turn. So when you get multi-attack, boom, it's still just the first hit on your turn. But it's still pretty cool. I like that. There's some other good stuff there, too. The Rogue. So the Rogue has a Guilty Pleasure, an Adversary, and Benefactor. Those are the roleplay aspects. You can have the Inquisitive archetype, the Mastermind, and the Swashbuckler. All of which seem like they would be a lot of fun to play as. The Sorcerer. So the Sorcerer, Mike Morales was saying, is a focus on planar magic, as opposed to Wizards being about from books and study, and Warlocks being from a pact. So pact magic from a greater being that's not a deity, or a greater, thing. My wife and I were talking about this. One of our things about the Sorcerer, and this isn't in here, is we feel like it should be just more inherent type magic, like natural, not necessarily like a druid or anything, but like things that, like spirit magic, kind of like your inner, I don't know how to explain it, but like rather than, like for example, you do levels of exhaustion as a raging barbarian. What if as a sorcerer you get levels of you get more spells, but you suffer levels of exhaustion. We thought that would be kind of cool. You could expend hit dice to refrain from levels of exhaustion or to gain your spells back rather than hit points. We thought something like that would be kind of cool for a sorcerer. But anyways, the RP stuff is you can choose your arcane origins, reactions, and then a supernatural mark and your sign of sorcery. There are some cool things in here that alter your look, your RP aspect, things like that. Signs of sorcery is cool. It's all really cool. And then it goes into your sorcerer's origins. Divine soul, shadow magic, storm sorcery, which my wife is a big fan of storm sorcery. However, storm sorcery in here is basically like wind. Mike Merle said it, not me. The other thing you got is warlocks. So under warlocks, the RP things are the patron's attitude, special terms of the pact, and binding mark. And then you get into your new otherworldly patrons, the celestial, the hexblade, and then it goes into eldritch invocations. Now, I was looking at this book when I first bought it. The very first thing that I got really, really excited about was Eldritch Smite at 5th level. It's Pact of the Blade feature. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with your pact weapon, you can expend a warlock spell slot to deal an extra d8 force damage to the target, plus another d8 per level of the spell slot, and you can knock the target prone if it is huge or smaller. The reason I think this is cool is because now, as a warlock, you can smite. Smite is awesome as a paladin, and I'm so glad that you can do that as a warlock. I just thought that was so cool. There's some other really cool things in here that I was getting excited about. In fact, I was reading a lot of these to my wife the day I got this book, and yeah, just a lot of it is really, really good. So if you like warlocks, you're going to like this book. If you like the RP aspects of the stuff for the classes, you're going to like this book. This book has at least 3-4 things for every class. Again, I know that's what I've been harping on the last 20 minutes. It's my favorite thing, and I'm still in the class section. So you're going to hear at least one more. Wizard. Spell books. So you roll on this table. For example, the first one is a tome with pages that are thin sheets of metal, spells etched into them with acid. Interesting. But it's got these different types of spell books. So what's your spell book look like? I like that. I like that for once you might have players actually put some thought into what their spell book looks like, what it's made out of, and things like that. Too many times you just have a wizard who says, I look at my spell book and I cast Fireball. So I think this will be cool because now they can talk about, they can RP up the actual spell book. You get their ambition, again, 6 options, and eccentricity. Eccentricity, the first one, for example, is you have the habit of tapping your foot incessantly, which often annoys those around you. That, not the best one. Oh, here's one that might be good. You never enter a room without looking to see what's hanging from the ceiling. Like, that could be good. So that would be a good one. Then it goes into the arcane traditions. And then it goes into This Is Your Life. Now, I sold a book to Barker a while back from Be a Better Game Master, and it was the Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign book. I sold it a couple years ago to him. I didn't get a lot of use out of that book except for the things that were like character background and stuff like that. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff in there if you like Pathfinder. However, I play 5th edition, and I have Pathfinder, but the stuff that stood out to me was how you know the other party members, what happened to your parents, siblings, birth order, why did you do such and such and such. This section of the book starts jumping into stuff like that, and it's got tables. For example, you roll for your parents. You know who your parents are or were, or you do not know who your parents are or were. Then it's got based on your race. For example, half-elf parents. One parent was an elf, the other was a human. One parent was an elf, the other was a half-elf. One parent was a human, the other was a half-elf. And then both parents were half-elves. Now, you could make your own charts or whatever. It's not really that hard to do these things. However, doing these, I think, adds flavor to your characters. And so I'm going to encourage my group to do these as well. I think just having a sheet that you can boom, 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 just a blank sheet of paper, you put these on there before doing your backstory, I think is really cool. So I'm going to encourage my players to try these. It's got family, single father or stepfather, mother and father, institution, temple, orphanage, guardian, paternal or maternal, aunt, uncle, or both, extended family such as tribe or clan, adopted family, then it has a section about absent parent, family lifestyle, birth order, number of siblings, your childhood home, childhood memories. Then it gets into backgrounds. Acolyte. I became an acolyte because I ran away from home at an early age and found refuge in a temple. Now, if these things don't make sense with the other stuff, obviously you either re-roll or just find a way to explain it, or just choose something else. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but it has it for all the backgrounds from the player's handbook. It then gets into class training. So, for example, barbarian. I became a barbarian because ... Say you rolled a 1. My devotion to my people lifted me in battle, making me powerful and dangerous. So that's kind of cool. You don't see a lot of people role play up why they became a certain class. And I think this, again, forces your players to think about it a little bit more. So I'm excited about this because I think it's going to help people role play better. It's going to give them a better understanding of their characters, especially if they're the type of player who doesn't put a lot of thought into that before playing. Now, after all the classes, it gets into life events. So you can roll by age, and then roll the number of life events. So for example, you roll 21 to 59 years old. 21 to 59 is 21 to 30 years old. 1d4 life events. Then you roll on the life events table. You met someone important. Use these supplement tables to determine this character's identity and how this individual feels about you. Work out additional details with your DM as needed to fit this character into your backstory. So again, more role-playing stuff, things to help your characters, things to help your DM plan for adventures, plan future scenarios. It's awesome. Oh, yeah, dude, Paul, this book is awesome. So Paul Garrison, hopefully I'm saying your last name correct. This book is really good for that. It's my favorite thing about this book, besides the DM stuff. I mean, wait till I get to that. Gets into secondary tables, so adventures, arcane matters, magical event. You were charmed or frightened by a spell, for example. And it has all sorts of different things there. Boons. Friendly wizard gave you a spell scroll containing 1 cantrip of the DM's choice. So that's cool. It has a crime table, punishment, supernatural events, tragedies, war, weird stuff, supplemental tables, alignment. These you can use for all sorts of different things, but really, really good stuff in here. Again, you can roll for how the NPCs. What class are they? What was their cause of death? Occupation, race, relationship, hostile, friendly, or indifferent, status. So, it's a lot of this is based on how you know the NPCs from those backstory things, but you could use these for just any NPC. You can use these for player characters too, if you really want to. Maybe you had a player character you quit playing and you played another one. Well, maybe you decided they died. Just roll for how they died. So this book also has racial feats. And I've seen people talk about racial feats in other videos. The racial feats in here, some of them are pretty powerful. Now, I was talking about this, again, when I first got the book. I spent hours looking at this book when I first got it. My wife looked at it for a while, too. And one of the things we had talked about is how powerful some of these racial feats are. I haven't seen them in practice yet, but just reading them, some of them sound really good. And I feel like the reason they did this in part is because humans get that extra feat at first level, which, one, kind of gives them a big head start on certain things, and also allows them to have an extra feat. And so I think by giving racial feats and making them pretty darn good, it gives extra incentive to choose something other than a human. One of them is Dragon Fear. basically, instead of using your breath weapon, you can use like an intimidation. They make DC save or not. They fail, they're frightened for up to a minute. Dragon hide, which is natural armor, and you get claws. Drow high magic, you get more spells. Dwarven fortitude. There's just a lot of good stuff in here. There's some halfling things that are pretty cool too. Actually, that was probably on the previous page. Bountiful luck. You're not sure how you do it. You just wish it and it happens. Surely a sign of fortune. Basically, you can lend your companions advantage almost at any given time just by wishing it. And not advantage. I'm sorry. It's like lucky. So when they roll, if they get a 1, you can just wish that they did better, and then they roll the second one, and then they take the second die. So yeah, and then you can't use lucky until the end of your next turn once you do that, though. Now, I think it's limited to once per short rest. I think. Let me look. No, it looks like it always works. Yeah, it always works. It just makes it so you can't use lucky. But that's pretty darn cool. I think there's another one for halflings I thought was cool. Second chance. Fortune favors you, blah, blah, blah. When a creature you can see hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force that creature to re-roll. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you roll initiative at the start of combat or until you finish a short or long rest. So basically once per combat, right? Yeah. So yeah, once per combat, basically. And that's pretty darn cool. So you basically force them to re-roll. So I like that. Squat nimbleness is good. Increase your walking speed by 5 feet. You get proficiency in acrobatics or athletics, and you have advantage on any strength athletics or dex acrobatics check you make to escape from being grappled. So it's like the anti-grappling, and you get 5 feet speed, which is good for a dwarf. Extra wood elf magic. Then it gets into DM tools. Now, DM tools, there's some good stuff in here. It's got falling, rate of falling, flying creatures and falling sleep, waking someone. So waking someone is interesting because I've done a lot of random encounters in my games. I've done a lot of random encounters in my games, and a lot of times party members are sleeping because it's usually out at night, out in the wilderness. Now I roll almost all the time that they're in the wilderness, but it just happens to be that I've had players that like to take a lot of rests in the woods rather than continue to travel or whatever. And this basically says you have to yell. So you're going to alert, something that is nearby to your presence. Or you have to actually rigorously shake them, basically. And it talks about what if they have a passive perception of like a 15, a passive perception of 20 or higher, then whispers within 10 feet would wake them up. Speech at a normal volume would wake up someone with a 15. So again, anything beyond that, though, they need to be shaken or slapped, or a sudden loud noise such as yelling, thunder, or a ringing bell. It talks about sleeping in armor, which is always interesting. And maybe it's because I went to Marine Corps boot camp, I've always been able to sleep ever since Marine Corps boot camp, no matter the situation. And actually, there was a time in high school where I fell asleep at a concert, and the only thing that woke me up was Gatorade got spilled on my back. But and it was like a metal, rock, rap concert kind of thing. So more like a festival. But yeah. So anyway, so that's good. Oh, it says that if you have levels of exhaustion, sleeping in armor will not reduce exhaustion levels, and you will only get 1/4 of your spent hit dice. So again, it's kind of crummy because, again, I feel like I could sleep in full plate, but that's just me. Going without a long rest. This was cool too. Adamantine weapons. Basically, it costs more. You can break other things that aren't adamantine and aren't magical. And whenever an adamantine weapon or piece of ammunition hits an object, it's critical. It's a critical hit. So if I take my sword, it's made of adamantine, and I hit somebody else's sword, then again, it's going to be a critical hit on it. It might break it. Not my weapon, but theirs. The adamantine version of the melee weapon or of 10 pieces of ammunition costs 500 gold, more than the normal version, whether the weapon is ammunition or is made of metal or coated with it. So that's pretty big. So I like that. Because again, it's not going to make you, it's going to give you a tactical option to try and disarm people. So I think that's pretty cool. They talk about tying knots and how it's a sleight of hand check to check it rather than, other things. It's not a tool proficiency really or anything like that. Then it goes into tool proficiencies. I like what they do with this. They tell you what's in the kit, your advantage, any added benefits to it. So for example, let's pull one up. Alchemist supplies. Investigation. When you inspect an area for clues, proficiency with alchemist supplies grants additional insight into any chemicals or other substances that might have been used in the area. So rather than just using that, it gives you extra things. So I like that. I think that's really cool. It also says Arcana. Proficiency with alchemist supplies allows you to unlock more information on Arcana checks involving potions and similar materials. It talks about the components that are in the kit. And then it has DCs for alchemist supplies. So for example, create a puff of thick smoke, DC 10. Neutralize an acid, DC 20. So that's cool. And it does that for everything. I think the smithing one was one of the first ones I read because I was like, well, what's that going to give you extra? And it's like be able to tell the craftsmanship of weapons if they're any good or not. So I like that. There's some good things in there. Just because I'm curious now, and I haven't actually read this. Herbalism kit. Investigation. When you inspect an area overgrown with plants, your proficiency can help you pick out details and clues that others might miss. Arcana. Your knowledge of the nature and uses of herbs can add insight to your magical studies that deal with plants in your attempts to identify potions. So you could identify potions. Medicine. Your mastery of herbalism improves your ability to treat illness and wounds by augmenting your methods of care with medicinal plants. Nature and survival. When you travel in the wild, your skill in herbalism makes it easier to identify plants and spot sources of food that others might overlook. And then identify plants. You can identify most plants with a quick inspection of their appearance and smell. So it's all stuff that makes sense, but wasn't explicitly stated in the PHB. And so I think a lot of DMs probably weren't allowing these things just based on the fact that you have herbalism kit proficiency. So that's good. Tinker's tools. Spell casting, perceiving caster at work, identifying a spell, invalid spell targets. So it gives you rules for different things. For example, identifying a spell. You can identify a spell. I think it's like a DC 15. Yeah, DC 15 plus the spell's level. So if you're a spell caster, you can perceive another spell caster casting a spell and what it is. So that's cool. Invalid spell targets, areas of effect. It shows these really cool charts. It makes me kind of want to make templates for my table since I use miniatures, but I like that. That's cool. Making a template, using a template, token method, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This kind of came up in a game I play in right now last week. Not really, actually, but for the sake of it, whatever. We'll just say it did. But encounter building. This book has quick tables for how to do it. It's not exact, but it's close. For example, solo monster challenge rating. If you have, the old way to do it is based on 4 characters. The old way in 5th edition, it's 4 characters of whatever level. That's your CR for a solo monster for a basic encounter. So for example, a CR1 would have been for level 1, 4 characters. This shows what the party size of 5 would be, which it doubles it in level 1 scenario, and it's still just 2 for 6 characters. So CR1 could be 2. No, CR2 for 6 characters. Sorry about that. CR2, level 1, 6 characters. And same thing for 5 characters. So anyways, it does simplify the stuff from before. So if you were struggling with the math and the multiplier, this does a good job of breaking that down for you in a much simpler way. It has ratios. So for example, for multiple monsters, 1st through 5th level, for the players to monster, I think, isn't that what it is? So if you have multiple monsters, it should be a 1-to-2 ratio. If you have multiple for a 1/8 CR, and again, I'm going to complicate this because now I'm spouting off the top of my head. But when I read this, it made perfect sense. Now I'm just looking at tables. It's been like 3 days since I looked at this. But a 5-to-1 ratio of CR1 monsters for 1st level party. So anyways, that's cool. Goes into adding flavor, monster personality. Again, this is back to the role-playing stuff. So got the monster personality, monster relationships. So this is kind of interesting. One of the options is worshipped and allies will die for it. That could be kind of fun to just randomly roll, and you might have a kobold that's worshipped and his allies will die for it. Or you might have, gosh, I'm trying to think of something absurdly goofy, but you could have something really goofy be worshipped and have some powerful allies that would die for it. So that would be kind of funny. So that'll be fun to play as. One is seen as a bully. Its allies want to see it defeated. So I could see that being like a scenario where goblins like give up their bugbear friend because he's such a jerk to them. And it'd be one of those combats where if the players do decide to take mercy or try to talk it out, that the goblins would be like, okay, rather than try to fight. So that could be fun. The personalities are cool too. One of them is Joker, taunts its enemies, greedy, wants treasure, cowardly, looking to surrender. So again, maybe it's worshipped. Its allies will fight to the death, but then when you get to him, he's cowardly and looking to surrender. That's kind of funny. So I like that. Again, it goes into quick matchups. So if your characters are 1st level, then it's 1 monster is a 1/4 CR, 2 monsters is 1/8. 2nd level, 1 monster is a 1/2 CR, 2 monsters is a 1/4. So that's cool. It's like if you don't have much time or if you want a simpler but less precise guidelines, quick matchups table below offers an alternative. I don't usually do CR. Like I don't worry about CRs. I usually think what makes sense for this cave? What makes sense for this area? And that's how I usually throw monsters. But I might try these out in some of my games just to see how close it feels. Flight or fight, and it talks about that, which I think is good. And then it goes into random encounter tables. This is something I know a lot of people were pissed about that wasn't in the monster manual. I know they released a chart. I think it was a downloadable chart on Wizards of the Coast website. They had monsters sorted by terrain, but that's it. It wasn't a random encounter table. This gives you random encounter tables by region, by level. For example, Arctic encounters levels 1 through 4. You roll a percentile. You roll a 1, it's 1 giant owl. You roll 100, it's 1 frost giant. Then it goes Arctic encounters levels 5 through 10, then 11 through 16, then 17 through 20. And the way it is low number is better. It's less deadly. The higher you roll, the worse on the percentiles. So Arctic encounters 17 through 20. You roll a 1, it's 2d10 revenants. You roll 100, it's 1 ancient white dragon with 1d3 young white dragons. That's pretty darn cool. And here's the funny thing. So something I didn't really touch on. Excuse me. This book has little notes, just like Volo's guide did, but this one has little notes by Xanathar. On the bottom of this page, it says, crazy things happen all the time. You never know what's just around the corner or behind that door or down in that pit where I threw all those dwarves. Dwarves might be down there still. They're hardy. They bounce sometimes. I don't know. The notes in here are pretty funny. But anyway, so it's got that for all the different types of terrain. Coastal, desert, and again, it's sorted by level. Forest encounters. Oh, I just saw your comment. Oh, D&D Wolverine claws. Desert, forest, which I'm going to get a lot of use out of the forest one, I think, in my Elven campaign. Grassland, I'll probably use that too. Hill encounters. Mountain encounters. And I believe swamp encounters. Oh, and then Underdark. Underdark encounters look pretty cool too. And I think there's underwater. Yep, underwater, urban. So all those different regions, and then you can roll on those tables. It goes into traps. This is another section that I think I'm going to find very helpful. The traps have briefly been touched on, I believe, in the DM's guide. This goes a little more into it. Trigger effect, countermeasures. It's got extra. It's got more. Here's a Xanathar note. Pit traps are hilarious because when one of you walking thing steps on one, you fall down and you get hurt. That's the best part. Because Xanathar is a beholder and he doesn't step on things. So anyways, that's good. There's different things. Then it talks about designing simple traps, designing complex traps, and then it tells you like trap save DCs, damage severity, spell equivalent by level, which those I think were already in the DM's guide. Placing a simple trap, complex traps, complex trap experience rewards. Gosh, these are so good. Path of Blades. Gosh, there's so many different things. Love it. Absolutely love it. So the traps are always good. Yes, traps. Trap sections are always useful. Yes, they're really good in here. Then it goes into designing complex traps. So you got that. Gosh, keeps going. Then it goes into downtime. Downtime is cool. Downtime, you know, I haven't played in a lot of games that have used downtime. Brian from Bugbears and Brews, we used it for a couple games I played with him. It ended up not going too bad. It was pretty good. But we didn't, I don't think we used the stuff out of the DM's guide. I think he just said, hey, it's downtime. What do you want to do? Boom. But yeah, maybe it was him. Maybe it was a different game. But so we got that. And I think we did it in Provokers a little bit too. Hey, Power Up Gamers, role-playing for accessibility. Welcome to the chat. I'm probably only going to be on here for another 10, 15 minutes, although I'm not as far as I thought I'd be in this book, so maybe a little longer. But it goes into rivals for downtime. Yeah, and it has examples of rivals and how to make a rival for your party and stuff. It could be a merchant who has it out for you, or that has it out for the city because he can't be the head merchant or whatever. So it's got a couple examples. Goes into things like buying magic items, magic item price, purchasing magic items. So that's a good little section. Carousing. I think somebody said that one of the options is, yeah, here it is. So the lower class carousing complications. Surprise, you're married. So when you could roll for downtime stuff, like, oh, I blacked out, I was drunk, I don't know what happened, but I was carousing. Boom, you just got married. But then it's got middle class and upper class also. Then it has crafting an item. That's cool. Crafting complications, crime complications, creating healing potions, pit fighting, gambling, religious service, research outcomes, all sorts of good stuff in here. Downtime is a cool thing that you could do a lot with. Training, magic items, sale complications. Then it goes into awarding magic items. Now, I don't remember who, I think it was Crawford on D&D Beyond. And I don't know why I can't think of is it James Crawford? I can't think of his first name right now, which is really driving me nuts. I can picture him and everything and hear his voice. But anyways, I think it was he who talked about the magic items. And one of the things they said that they had problems with when people would write modules is that they didn't have a defined place for how many magic items should be in a module. And this kind of covers that. So how much should be in an adventure? And it has a table. And all these different things. And it also tells you how to do it randomly if you want to do it that way, or if you want to do it by picking specific items. This is a good section. Something that I suck at as a DM, there's a few things I suck at that I need to work on, but one of the things I've always been really poor at was not knowing how many things to give my players. That comes to gold, even with the information in the DM's guide that says how much to give them. I always struggle to make it make sense depending on the encounters. Like if they're fighting bandits, it's easy to give gold. For me, it doesn't make sense if they're fighting goblins and kobolds or some bear out in the wild that, all of a sudden you just found 150 gold. Doesn't make sense to me. So I struggle because I try to make those things make sense in my games rather than be how the game was designed to give out such and such amount of gold or treasure. But I do like this. I like how it gives you that. So what I was saying is choosing items level by level is good. Distribution by rarity. Choosing items piecemeal, which is typically what I tend to do. And then it talks about overstocking and adventure. It has a section about are magic items necessary? And then it goes into probably one of the best sections of this book. And I'm saying that a lot about a lot of these sections, but common magic items. Now, the common magic items, I don't know if you've heard, Chris Perkins came up with these. I actually tweeted at him the other day, and he tweeted back and said he could have wrote 50 more. And so I tried to challenge him to write more. So he said he could write 50 more. I want to see 50 more. If you think about it, tag him, tweet at him, whatever, and tell him you're waiting for the 50 more that he could write. Maybe he'll give us something. Maybe we'll get an Unearthed Arcana in a couple of weeks with 50 more. But one of them is Candle of the Deep. The flame of this candle is not extinguished when immersed in water. It gives off light and heat like a normal candle underwater. That's cool. All this stuff is random like that. Enduring Spellbook. This spellbook, along with anything written on its pages, can't be damaged by fire or immersion in water. In addition, the spellbook doesn't deteriorate with age. So it looks like a brand new book all the time. Gosh, there's so many good things. So many things. I'm trying not to mention things that have been mentioned in other people's videos. Bead of Refreshment. This spongy, flavorless, gelatinous bead dissolves in liquid, transforming up to a pint of the liquid into fresh, cold drinking water. The bead has no effect on magical liquids or harmful substances such as poison. But, barring that, it'll turn anything into a fresh glass of water, basically. Armor of Gleaming. This armor never gets dirty. So again, it's not necessarily going to give mechanical advantages. However, as a DM, I could see, and me and my wife are throwing these back and forth, like ways you could role play it and possibly get advantages. These things could help your charisma checks depending on who you're talking to, or they could add to your intimidation, or things like that, like the Dread Helm. This fearsome steel helm makes your eyes glow red while you wear it. Adds to intimidation. You have advantage. Or I'm going to give you a +1, or I'm going to lower their DC, or whatever. So you got all sorts of good stuff there. There's 2 pages of it. So good stuff. Almost every single one of these is awesome. There was the Wand of Smiles and the Wand of Scowls. So the recharge, if you roll a 1, it turns into the other wand. And it goes back and forth. So that's cool. Then it gets into your magic items tables. And this is for everything that was in the DM's guide and this, I believe. I don't think it covers modules. But it has them organized too. So minor items, common, uncommon, rare, very rare. And this goes with that section a couple pages back, which I kind of think it's odd that they put all the magic items in between there. They probably should have put it after the tables, I feel. But that's all right. But it goes with the tables where you're awarding it by rarity or by tier. So the tables here actually help with all the magic items. Plus, it's kind of just nice to see it all together. So you go, oh, okay, that's all the common ones. Oh, that's all the rare ones. That's all the legendary. You know, that's kind of helpful. And then to see what they consider minor compared to major. Most of the minor ones go away after you use them. Or they're these ones that don't really have much actual effect. Not all of them go away after using them, though. But a lot of them are like potions or scrolls. But Bag of Holding is considered minor. You know, Drift Globes. So you get some minor things that actually help quite a bit. The major ones are obviously better. Yeah, so anyways. Oh, here's a good one. So here is a note by Xanathar. And this is on the Major Items Very Rare page, or Major Items Legendary page. Never rely on magic items. They're so fickle. First they work and then they don't. On, off, in the blink of my eye. So, sorry, I get a kick out of Xanathar. Ooh, here we go, spells. So here we go, another note from Xanathar, first thing. So why can't people who use magic do it all the time? I can disintegrate things whenever I want, like now, and now, and now, and now. Hey, where'd everybody go? Basically killed a bunch of people. So I was reading through some of these spells. There's a lot of good spells in here. Now, I will say in the player's handbook, I haven't read all the spells. I looked through every single one of these spells. Haven't read necessarily word for word, but I at least got the general concept of most of it. And there's some really good ones in here that I think could be a lot of fun. One is, what is it, like Infestation or something like that. That was a good one. Yeah, Infestation I thought was good. And I like to focus a lot of my stuff on early level stuff, abilities, spells, because I feel like that's the stuff that's going to be used the most anyway. I don't worry once you get up to 9th level spells and stuff. Is it balanced or not? I don't know. I've never played a character to level 20 in 5th edition. So I think the highest I've got was like level 13. And that was by a series of one-shots. So, but anyways, I think we were level 5 spells. I don't know. I don't remember. I think I was playing a barbarian or something. So I didn't even have to worry about spells. But anyways, so there's some awesome spells in here. I like a lot of those. Good spells. And again, I like a lot of the role play heavy things. All right, so the appendix, it gets into campaigns. Now it talks about shared campaigns, which I believe is when you have like multiple DMs for a campaign. Yeah, it's okay. So it's when you use a player and you jump to different games. So that's interesting. It talks about character creation, starting equipment, ability scores, yada, 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 preferred ways to do it. One of the things is it recommends the starting equipment specified by class. That's how I usually do it anyway, just because it's quicker, and then I worry about buying stuff in-game. I believe somewhere in here it talks about it's like the +1 roll, so use the PHB and then any one other book if you want to use a bunch of other stuff. So for example, you could use your race out of Volos, but then you're stuck using PHB for everything else. Or you could choose everything out of the PHB, but then do a subclass from, Xanathar's guide. So it kind of recommends that. Oh yeah, it's right here under character creation. Player's Handbook +1. So that's basically what that is. It talks about rewards, magic items, creating an item list for a shared. And again, most of this is for. I think this whole section actually might be for shared campaigns. Yeah, actually it is. So that's why. That's why it has these strict character creation and advancement suggestions. Appendix B is names, and this is cool. I was telling my wife about this too. I don't think she was looked this far back. I was like, it's got it by every race. Then it's got real world culture names, and it's percentiles. So for every 2 numbers, that's a name. So for a chart of 100, you get 50 names for all the races, both sexes. So you get 100 elf names, 100 dwarf names. You also get last names, so clan names. Under elf, you get child names, adult names, and then family names. So you get more names under elves. So that's cool. Then under humans, it gives you Arabic. Then it gives you Celtic, Chinese, Egyptian, English, French, German, gosh, Greek, Indian, Japanese, Mesoamerican, Niger, Congo, Norse, Polynesian, Roman, Slavic. And all those are divided into gender, Spanish. All those are divided into gender. And yeah, it's awesome. I can't recommend this book enough. A lot of people think that all this should have been in the PHP. It's probably a bit much to have it all in the PHP, but a lot of this stuff I really do wish was in the PHP. But this is such a good book. Like this special edition is really nice, really pretty. But yeah, so if you guys have questions, I'd love to answer them. But the names are good. Everything in that book is pretty good. Again, I didn't even dive into the mechanics of the subclasses yet, really. I didn't really talk about that in this. I mean, if you played Unearthed Arcana, you probably know what to expect. Yeah, there's good stuff. So Paul said, sweet, names. I know that would help some players and maybe me. Yeah, I usually write down whatever the first name that comes to my mind is. But a lot of times, if I'm struggling, which I draw a lot of blanks, I resort to the books. Sometimes I'll go to, like in the PHP, it's got that section of common names per race. So I use that a lot. Or I search in Google, and there's a website that comes up. It's got all sorts of generators. It's not Donjon or Donwan or Donjon, but it's got like a blue background, black font. They have like Lord of the Rings names and all sorts of other names. I use that one a lot, and I just keep hitting generate until I get something I like. A lot of times the names are just so hard to pronounce on that. I don't feel like they're realistic. And so I end up hitting it like 5 or 6 times before I find one. I think they're like 10 or 15 names each time you hit it. But yeah, this is going to be better. I like that. If you can think of any questions, just ask away in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer. But gosh, it's such a good book. My group, we've mostly made our characters in my Elven campaign. We've got a paladin, a cleric, a ranger, and a monk. And so I'm not sure if any of them are going to use anything on the Xanathars other than the background stuff that I'm going to ask them to do. But I'm not sure if they're going to use any of the like subclasses or anything. My ranger, I was talking to him about making a pop instead of a ranger, like a fighter, arcane, what is it? The trick shot guy that I was talking about. Was talking to him about that. I talked to him a little bit about the Monster Hunter class. The Monster Hunter class for the Ranger is my most, like, the thing that stands out to me the most. I did not like how they did the Ranger in the Player's Handbook. There's not a single Ranger in the PHP that appeals to me. They just don't, they seem weak to me. And not that they are. I mean, they're good at area of effect. They're good at multiple enemies. They're good for wilderness things. You don't play in a lot of games that I've played in. There's not a lot of games that focus on that wilderness part of it. So that's why Ranger in general just didn't appeal to me in the Player's Handbook. But yeah, there's some nice little options in this book for that. Yeah, gosh, that cover, it's so pretty. Like, look at the detail in there. Like, that just looks really nice. At least I think it does. First names are usually Bill for me. Lots of NPCs named Bill. That's pretty funny. Yeah, this book is good. Did you guys see that Dyson Logos? He did a picture of this with all the googly eyes that covered him to the exact size. That was pretty cool. I guess he's the one who did it to the Beholder and the guy on the cover of the Monster Manual too. Now, I don't know if he actually stuck it on there or if he just cut them out and set them there for the picture, but I like that. It's really cool. You guys got to go check that out on his Facebook or Twitter. But yeah, and look at the back cover. Like, that is just gorgeous. That looks way better than Bolo's back cover, in my opinion. You know, like, that just looks so good. And the gold just stands out. Covers, I even favor this too. It's a little more dynamic than just black and gray. So it's got like shades of gold and red into it. So I think that's what makes it better. They're both good. Like, don't get me wrong. I love them both. It just seems like the Xanathar's guide is a little bit better. Just a little bit. So let me know if you agree with that. But gosh, good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. This is a book I've wanted for a couple months now. I didn't actually think I'd get it this early. I figured I'd probably get it, you know, after Thanksgiving, actually, and probably not the special edition cover. I was worried they'd be out. So yeah, if you have questions, I'll happily dive into it. Otherwise, I'll probably wrap up. Looks like we have 3 viewers. I don't know who's viewing right now. Yeah, don't tell me who, but yeah. Anyways, hope you guys liked this. I can't really think of much other than I think it's going to add a lot to the actual role play at tables. I think it's going to give you a few extra options. So far, and again, I have a lot of reading still to do. I don't see anything that's truly game breaking. I do want to say, as I discover those things, I will do videos on those over on the Master the Game Master the Game Facebook group. I'll talk about those there. I will talk about it in the Master the Game page on Facebook. I'll talk about it on Master the Game on Twitter, because that's my new YouTube channel as well, where I'm going to do some more focused videos. We're going to talk about optimizing, you know, things like that. So yeah, Xanathar's guide pops more. I 100% agree. Yeah, I'm going to totally, so with the new channel, since I'm wrapping up here, but with the new channel, the idea is to be very focused. I want it to be optimization for players and for dungeon masters. And so what that means is, you know, we might have a character build series, and I'm going to tell you how to make this type of character. And it's going to be specific. It's going to be how to build a tank fighter the right way. The next video might be how to build a healer cleric the right way, or how to build an offensive cleric the right way. Another one might be how to create a control wizard the right way. You know, and we'll do that. I'm starting off with the core 4, so it's going to be rogue, wizard, cleric, and fighter, and then it's going to go more specific. I'm also going to then touch on the rest of the things from the player's handbook, not multi-classing. I also want to do videos on dungeon mastering, so how to make a challenging encounter within the CR limits to combat your optimized player characters. So we're going to optimize things for DMs as well. You know, like combinations of monsters. You might use this monster with this one, and it still makes sense, and it can exploit certain weaknesses in your characters. So maybe you have that one or player. Maybe you have this one player at your table that knows how to exploit the game. He knows which spell combinations, which multi-class combinations, but you know offhand, okay, he's got this one little weakness. So we're going to talk about balancing an encounter to take them on. We're also going to do the same type of thing with traps. So we're going to do that. And at some point, I want to get into puzzles. So that stuff is all going to be over on my new channel, Master the Game. This channel is still going to just be things like this. We'll talk about products here and there. We'll do some live chats. You know, I'll bring my wife on sometimes just so we can argue about spell components compared to sharpening swords, in case you saw that argument, that debate that we've been having on and off for 2 years, but more importantly today in the last couple of days online. So we'll talk about all that, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So again, go subscribe to Master the Game. Go over on YouTube. Go like the Master the Game page on Facebook. Go and join the Master the Game group on Facebook, and go and follow Master the Game on Twitter. So all that stuff will be there, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, I think that's it. Oh, Paul said, I love mixing mounts and riders for encounters. Yes, that, and actually, Andrew Knapp and I used to talk about that on our podcast that we used to do. We used to talk about mounts. He loves the idea of martial characters and mounts. And one of the things he liked was the idea of using a lance and things like that. That was always a lot of fun talking to him about stuff like that. Speaking of which, there's also the Fathers of Tabletop. It's a podcast I'm on with Jarl of Goats. He's also a father. Our name comes from the fact that we're both fathers, busy guys. We have a lot going on in our lives, and we're just trying to spread the love of the hobby. And one of the big messages about that is there's no right or wrong way to play the game, as long as you guys have fun. And so we're going to focus our podcast on fun, discussing different things. We just recorded an episode this past week for Christmas buying, our Christmas buyer's guide. I think we're going to release that this week, but go find Fathers of Tabletop on YouTube, and go find Fathers of Tabletop over on Facebook. I don't believe we have a Twitter or anything like that set up yet, but Fathers of Tabletop, go check them out as well. It's me and Jarl of Goats. What else? Gosh, there's so many things. So anyways, we'll just leave it at that, but go pick up Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I will say I was wrapping up, but here we go. Brad Smith from Devious Dungeon Denizens bought this book, and he said he didn't feel like there was a lot of good stuff in here for DMs. Like, for him, he didn't think he was going to get a lot of use out of it, as opposed to all the use he got out of Volo's guide. Whereas I said I didn't get a lot of use out of Volo's, but I anticipate I'm going to get a lot out of this. He said there's a lot of player options, not enough for DMs. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff for DMs in here, at least for me as a DM and how I like to play. Again, I don't do a lot with CR encounters when I'm running a game. I understand them. I understand the math. I actually like the math of the system. Excuse me. But I think the rest of it, the magic items, the treasure, the flavor stuff of how to do classes, that smite from a warlock. I can't wait to make a smiting evil warlock to go against my players. In fact, that might even be the main bad guy. I don't know yet in my next campaign, at least the first main bad guy. I think that the smite is going to be cool. So yeah, there's some cool things in here. The spells, I don't know how you're not going to get use out of the spells, but there's some good spells. The racial feats, again, just tack it onto your characters, even if they're, your non-player characters. The downtime activities. Again, there's a lot of stuff in here for both players and DMs. Brad obviously is entitled to his opinion. I just don't agree with it. And I don't know a lot of other people who think they didn't get a lot out of it. So Paul says, I personally will get a lot out of it like I do with Volos. Yeah, like Volos is good. Like, I like the monsters in it. I haven't used any yet. I have Tome of Beasts. I'm excited to use the monsters out of there. There's some good flavor early on in this book about like layers and things with the different monsters. But again, I haven't used any of it really. I haven't even made, I don't think, maybe I have. I think I've only made like one player character that's a monster race. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got a ton of use out of it. It's got some good things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I was excited about it. I was excited about the possible layers. I was excited about the player races. I still am. I still like it. I like the bestiary. I just haven't done anything with it. Yeah, like the really cheap rip-off beholders that aren't quite beholders. Like, I don't know. There's just some monsters I will never use out of here. It just, and a lot of them. Like, they fill up pages, but they're just not exciting monsters. Just, I don't know, Devourer. The dinosaurs. You get the dinosaurs. Yeah, Fire Newts, whatever. The Frog Hemoth. Go check out Locreus's video if you haven't. Oh, wow. Up to 5 viewers all of a sudden. Some giants, which are cool. I don't know. In Volo's guide, I just didn't get a ton of use out of it. I didn't use a lot of the monsters out of it. In fact, I don't think I've used any monsters out of it. But Xanathar's Guide's going to get like all my uses out of it, I think. Like I'm going to use it all the time. The charts, I feel like those magic items. I have a third-party Pathfinder book that had magic items similar to the ones that were in Xanathar's Guide. I gave my players a mud ring once, which had like 3 uses per day, and what it did is they add their dex modifier on top of their attack roll, and if it hits, then it causes disadvantage. Basically, they can't see until they wipe the mud out of their eyes. So they can take the turn to get the mud out of their eyes, or they could just be at disadvantage for a couple rounds. And I think it was actually just 1 round. So I could wipe their eyes. I don't remember how I did it, but I used that item. I loved it, and that's the kind of magic items I really enjoy because I feel like I can give a ton of them, and it won't break the game. It can change the game quite a bit, but it forces them to do some stuff. Oh yeah, the assorted beasts were cool in this book. Now that I remember, rock grubs, apprentice wizard. Yeah, so there were some good things in here too. That's true. The champion. Variant familiars, Kraken priest. Yeah, there were some good things in here. But it's sad that like the most use I would get out of Volo's Guide is all out of the appendix. So I don't know. I mean, I like Volos. I would totally do it again if I could. But I still think Xanathar's Guide is way better than this, both visually, from a cover standpoint, and from content inside of it. Volo's Guide is good. I just haven't used it a lot. And I tend to run more games. But yeah, I feel like, gosh. So Volo's Guide, again, I'll use it mostly for the appendix because I like the things on the very back there. Yeah. I would say Volo's Guide, I will probably get 30 to 40% use out of. This book, I will probably get 90% use out of. So that's, I think, what does it for me. The character names are great. I probably won't use much with shared campaigns unless my wife and I ever alternate, or whoever in our gaming group. The spells, there were some really good ones. Dungeon Master tools are great. I love the encounter tables, the traps, how to balance, how to award treasure, the tool proficiency, extra stuff they give you. I like the adamantine weapons, how they did that. I don't like the sleeping in armor rule. It's just one of those things I don't think really adds to the game. I feel like it makes it harder, but it doesn't necessarily make it more fun. Waking someone, I like that it forces you to basically alert the enemies like nearby. So I do like that. The extra rules are good. I like the racial feats. I think those are good. I like the background stuff from This Is Your Life, the origins, personal decisions, life events, supplemental tables. I love for all the classes that they give you extra bits of flavor for your characters. All of that is without diving into the subclass mechanics, which I need to read more on and need to make some of these characters. Need to make some of these different character options to see if I really like it or not. See if I like the mechanics. It's hard. Some of the stuff stands out. Like I'm like, oh, that'll be a really cool ability. Again, I like the Arcane Archer as a fighter. I like the Samurai Fighter. Oath of Conquest under Paladin is good. I like the Monster Slayer Ranger. Earlier I stepped over. I didn't talk about the Scout. Oh well. I like the Warlock Eldritch Invocations a lot. What else? Yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers it. There's not a lot I don't like in here. If I'm just trying to figure out what I don't like, maybe some of the subclasses feel like a reach, like they're overstepping other classes and their abilities. But for the most part, I like the things in here. Yeah. I do. I kind of wish, obviously they add some things in here like the extra monk things and the samurai. I kind of wish they had done like the Oriental stuff in an Oriental themed book, like all just Oriental. So it's all in one book rather than like the player's handbook having monks and okay, so they're just in there. And I understand I've had this debate with people. I'm okay with it being in there, but ultimately they could have taken the monk out completely and maybe added more of the more fantasy themed stuff from this into there, right? And then maybe taking things like the swashbuckler out and the pirate and sailor background and making a book that is strictly about high seas adventures or something. I think that would be cool. So you have more, I like themed books that can tie the whole, like you could have the player's handbook and then be like, you know what, we're going to play more Oriental type stuff. And then just buy that Oriental one. Or, oh, we have the player's handbook and we want to focus on just high seas adventure. And then it has rules and it has the stuff that's just for those types of games. Like that would be cool to me rather than having a little bit here and a little bit there. Because now we got a swashbuckler. We don't have anything else really that's, high seas. I guess you could do storm sorcery there. Be like, oh, these are the people that actually help them travel on their ships against the wind so they could still go the direction they want or whatever. But yeah, you got like, now you have a random samurai here. Okay, you still don't have a ninja. You have monks, which could be like ninjas, but you don't have a ninja. I guess you could reuse a rogue for that, or you could use a monk, But yeah, I just feel like you could do some stuff with that. You could even have a mini monster manual inside of a book like that. So you have, say you did like a ninja, a monk, a samurai, Asian-inspired theme for monsters, and boom. Now you have Adventures on the High Seas. Adventures on the High Seas has your swashbuckler, has your storm sorcerer, has your gunslinger that I know some people wish they had done, but maybe you have your gunslinger in the swashbuckler one. And then in that, you also have something about like cannons and, more rules about swimming and steering ships or whatever. And you don't have to have a lot of rules, but just a little bit. It could be a small book. It could be a 100-page book for $25, $20. And it's everything you need to know to run a seafaring campaign. Maybe it even has some adventures in the back and some monsters. That's where you get stuff like all your aquatic animals. Like, obviously you would have in your core monster manual, you'd still have your dragon turtle and things like that. But this book might have your rare, more obscure ones. I don't know. Sharkmen. Maybe you add races like that. Sharkmen. Maybe you get your Kenku race in that book. I don't know. This is totally off the topic of Xanathar's Guide. But anyways, go get Xanathar's Guide. It's a good book. I've been rambling on too long. It's been way too long. I got to go to bed. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you got Xanathar's Guide, awesome. Love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.